Okay.
Okay, so critical thinking. What is it? So we look at the word critical and we think critical, criticism, criticize. Is it like that? Well, critical sounds like a negative word, that we should be saying, oh, that's not good, I don't like that chair, that table is horrible. It's not about that. It's about seeing the truth in statements, it's about seeing the truth or logic in the information that's coming to your eyes and ears. And very often in life, we're fed a lot of nonsense, BS. We hear a lot of things that aren't true. So you might hear your friend saying, I heard that blah. So I heard that, let's see. I heard that Coldplay were going to play Java Jazz. Your friend heard this where? You shouldn't let statements like that go kind of uncriticized, because if they say, I heard Coldplay are going to play Java Jazz, you want to say, wait, okay, so where did you hear that information? Then if they tell you and it sounds believable, you go and check it out and you make sure that it's true. Another one is, researchers say that, and we often hear this one on television, researchers say that if you eat more bananas, you will live longer. Okay, which researchers? From where? Are the researchers nutritionists? Are they researchers in radioactive substances? Are they researchers in child development? We don't know. So this word researchers covers everybody in academia, every discipline. So somebody could be legitimately studying voodoo. They're a researcher. Does voodoo have anything to do with bananas and nutrition and fitness? No. So this whole idea of, I read it in a magazine once, that blah. This is the kind of statement you hear when you're having conversations with your friends. I read it in a book somewhere. Okay, let's backtrack all that and find out what was the source and is it likely to be true? So this is the first aspect of critical thinking, is to not take things at face value, to not think that everything that you get delivered to you has the essence of truth. We like to think that all of our friends, all of our family, everyone we know is telling the truth to us all the time. But if you're a human being, and I think you all are human beings, then human beings are capable of deep, constant lies. It's what makes us a fun species. We can say one thing and mean another. That's how sarcasm comes about. We say, oh yeah, you're so smart, when we actually mean you're so dumb. So why should we expect our network to be universally truthful when we're not? So let's imagine that the world is 75% truth and 25% shade. Yeah? It's 25% shady. That's a lot of information that's coming your way that's automatically got what? It's tainted. It's got a virus. It's a little bit dangerous, yeah? So we want this information, we want to be able to see where is that 25%. Which part did I hear today from my lecturer or from my friend or did I see on television? Which part of that was nonsense? Which part was made up for entertainment or was made up because somebody wanted to see could they tell you a lie and get away with it? Yeah? So a lot of lies are basically harmless lies, but it doesn't mean that we can't recognize them for what they are. Now this does not mean that you go around shouting into your friend's faces, you're a liar, that's not true, where's this research from? We don't have to be that critical on the surface. We just have to know that some of the stuff that we receive can be put to one side into an I'll investigate that later pile. Yeah? So your inbox is now split into I will accept this and I will, you're in quarantine, facts, we don't know about you yet. Yeah? So I don't know if you've heard the phrase, take everything with a pinch of salt. Well, that's what we're doing with critical thinking. We're taking everything we hear, everything we see, and we're kind of adding a little bit of doubt in there. Now, it's nice to live in a world where we think that everything's lovely and straight and true, and there's no shade. But it doesn't do you much good as a survival instinct, it doesn't do you much good. You should be able to recognize when someone is giving you BS to your face, yeah? That's an important factor of survival, is knowing when you're being lied to, or conned, or cheated. So, if you're at university, and you're not really thinking about what you're studying, then you're not really studying. You're just doing what you did in high school and going, okay then, just learn this novel, it's okay then. No, that's not what we want you to do at university. We want you to think about what is the function of why you're doing this. Now, that doesn't mean that you should challenge every single lecturer and say, I don't think there's any point in this exercise. Because maybe that exercise is not for you. Maybe that exercise is for somebody else in the room who isn't quite as advanced as you. And so everybody else is doing this work, but it's because George, here at the front, George is struggling a little bit. We have to give him some work to bring him up, yeah? So don't say to your lecturer, this is below me, I'm above this. No. Answering basic questions. Sometimes we think we know more than we do. Why does rain fall from the sky? Happens for 6 months in the year in Indonesia, but do we actually know meteorologically what is the process behind raindrops, first of all evaporating up into the sky, becoming a cloud? Why don't all the clouds line up together? Why don't they have smaller clouds nearby? How does all that work? We just look up at the clouds and go, that's pretty, we're meant to big cloud today. We don't really think about the process, because we don't have to. But once we start critically thinking, it's interesting how much in the world is out there that we have taken for granted. We have guessed that we know. And really, what we've just done is we stopped caring that we don't know. So it's good to open your mind back up again. Remember when you were a child, and the word that would be constantly on your lips is, why? Why? And your mum would tell you the answer, and you'd say, but why? And you keep wanting to know why, and why, and why. Because as a child, you're naturally full of curiosity. Yeah? You want to know how everything works. But as you get older, your brain stops caring quite as much. And this is encouraged. In schools and high schools, you're encouraged just to kind of bring your horizon from here. As a 3-year-old child, you want to know everything. You're encouraged in school and high school to start narrowing your horizons so they're really quite small and you're only really good at a couple of things. It was quite fun being 3, even if you were annoying your parents. Why is snow cold? We know it is cold, but we don't know why it's cold. Why can't we have warm snow? Well, that would be rain. Hey, I'm applying critical thinking. What is electricity and how does it go through the cable? Could any of you actually explain the process by which all of this magic that we are experiencing right now? I'm standing here in Senayan, you're somewhere in Jakarta or somewhere in Indonesia, and you're seeing me talking nonsense through a camera that picks up 36 frames per second, beams electrically through the air on Wi-Fi signals. all of this magic we take for granted. And we don't begin to break it down. We don't begin to look at the camera and say, wow, that's amazing. How does that do that? And I don't want to be an expert, but I'd like to be able to say, I know 10% more than I did yesterday. That's critical thinking. When people look at technology, a lot of people my age and older, they look at technology and they go, oh my God. And today I looked at the setup here in Venus and I thought, okay, I've got to work out how this works. That's the sense of critical thinking you need to keep all the way through your life if you're not going to fall out of date. Yeah? So rather than saying, oh, technology, frightening, my colleague, Charles, who's next door, is 20 years older than me, and he looked at it and he went, okay, I can work this out. So that's because he has kept his sense of why, how does it work? He's kept all that wide open. He's an artist, so he keeps his mind open. Why are people bad? We know that people are telling us 25% lies generally throughout the day. Why are people doing that? What's in it for them? We've got to recognize they're there, but why? What function does it serve people to be bad? If we can work that out, then we can understand maybe their motivations are their motivations, and bad is a very grey topic. It's very hard to say what is 100% bad with no mitigating circumstances. So, the boy stole an apple. Is he bad? 100%? No, because the boy may be hungry. Now, let's imagine the boy is a millionaire, can afford to buy his own apple factory, and still stole the apple. Is he bad? We might be simplistic and say, well, he can afford an apple factory, so why is he stealing an apple? Well, could that not be mischief? He is a little boy. So we need to apply kind of levels of grey, levels of, it's not just this or that. He's not just a millionaire kid. He's a millionaire kid who's still a kid, who's capable of doing naughty things, not bad things, but naughty things. Is the apple really worth that much? Why does evil exist? Different from the previous one, evil and bad are not quite the same thing. Evil is intentional. Evil is I want to hurt other people. And these people do exist. But do you think anybody is, do you think the bad guy, do you think the bad guy in a movie wakes up in the morning going, I'm going to be a bad guy today? No, they don't. They wake up thinking my motivations are my motivations, and the good guy, the hero, he's getting in the way of my motivations. My motivations may be misguided, but nobody's told me that. So until I find out, until I learn, until I grow, maybe I'm not an evil person, maybe I'm just someone who's got misguided intentions. Why is there war? So if somebody steals, I don't know, somebody steals Sumatra from Indonesia, is it justified to go to war? Everyone's got their own shades of truth. Everyone's got their own idea of when something would be acceptable. If a little bit of Sumatra got stolen, would that be okay? Would it differ according to who stole it? If Singapore stole that, would that be okay? But if Malaysia stole it, that wouldn't be okay? So it's different kinds of layers in your personal truths. Why did my dog have to die? This is on a very micro level. I want to know, I'm critical of a world in which my God can let my dog die. What happened there? My dog was a good dog. My dog was loyal. My dog was loving. Why did my dog have to die? So we can be critical at a number of levels, and some of them seem silly. You can say, your dog died because it was old, man. Yeah, but why my dog? Why not his dog over there? Why do flowers bloom? We know that they're pretty, but why do they do it? Why biologically, why evolutionarily, why ecologically do they bloom? What's the point? Is it to look pretty in a bouquet? No, that's a side effect. Critical thinking begins when you question beyond what is given. You want to know more. You want to know how something happens or why it happens. What will happen if something changes? So, I noticed today, when I come into Venus, you can't see because I can't put a camera on the camera, but I will describe to you. The camera is hanging by a metal pole from the ceiling, and it is roughly my eye level. The camera is sitting on a bracket at the bottom, so here's the bracket, here's the pole, and the camera sits here. And it's just at the level where some medium height Venus student, boy or girl, is going to turn around from talking to the lecturer and walk straight into it, cutting their forehead right across here. So that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. No, ooh, camera, that's cool. I thought, oh my God, that's going to be a liability for Venus. So, you need to kind of look at things from different angles. I did simultaneously have the thought, ooh, technology, but my first thought was, a student's going to get hurt. And so, that level of criticism, while negative, is negative for a positive reason. I want to make sure the students don't have a big bleeding cut across their forehead. Yeah? Then secondarily, I'll go, ooh, camera. Critical thinking, therefore, requires a conscious level of processing, analysis, creation and evaluation of possible outcomes, and reflection. If this sounds tiring, it is. Once you become aware of thinking about your thinking, about your thinking, about your thinking, it all gets very meta and starts to kind of, it's like earlier you saw me, and there was me behind me, behind me, behind me, behind me. That's kind of what critical thinking is. It's being aware of what your thinking is doing and whether it's actually doing anything for you. So if you're a critical thinker, no surprise that you think. You're willing to examine your beliefs, assumptions, and opinions and weigh them against facts. You're willing to evaluate the generalizations and stereotypes you've created and are open to change if necessary. Now, this is a big part of university. You're going to meet a lot of people who are going to have different life experiences from you. Now, this won't be quite so apparent during your time where we're all doing this nightmare, where we're all teleconferencing or study from home. But what will become apparent when you get into these classrooms and you're sitting down with the people who will become your friends is that they are very different from you. And a lot of your friendship will be based on the similarities between you, but hopefully a lot of it will be based on the differences, that the things that they bring to the table that you've never seen, you've never seen before. When I first came to Indonesia, I had met, honestly, I had met, I think, 2 Muslims in my life before I came here. And so I knew that the religion existed. I just didn't know that it was massive in this part of the world. So when I got to Indonesia, naturally, I was surrounded by people who could now answer my questions. And so I had curiosity, and luckily I met the people who were happy to indulge my curiosity and tell me all the answers to the questions about why their religion does this and says this and worships this, and the differences between my religion and theirs. And I found it fascinating. I found it fascinating because it meant I now had friends that could tell me new stuff about a situation I really didn't know anything about back home. So those differences are what makes it worth getting up in the morning. You go to university, you meet people, and you discover ideas, you discover books and music, you discover TV shows, you discover documentaries and things to do, places to go. Or you can just sit in your own little bubble with your own one friend and learn nothing new. Yeah? So, which approach are you going to take? The sit in the bubble or the embrace the world for I am young approach? Critical thinkers listen carefully. The devil is in the details. It's a great phrase. And basically it means that people will slip in little bits of BS along the way, and you're expected not to notice. But critical thinkers listen carefully, and this is an important distinction between a strong student who's going to walk out of here with a first, and a student, sorry, not first, a high GPA, say 3.9 something, and somebody who's going to come in around 3.5-ish. It's because One of them is pin sharp at listening and listens like they're going to the gym. They listen like this. Obviously, their face is not shaped like, but they're listening hard. You listen carefully to what others are saying and are able to give feedback. You're able to suspend judgment until all the facts have been gathered and considered. When you're having a conversation with your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, your mom, your dad, are you waiting so that you can say your thing? Or are you actually listening to them in order to respond to them? Or are you just waiting? Are you formulating your own thought of what you want to add to the conversation, and they're just making noise and you're just waiting? Or are you listening? Are you listening to what they're saying? Are you empathizing? Are you sympathizing? Are you going, oh, really? Are you reacting properly? Or are you just waiting? Yeah. Critical thinkers look for evidence. You look for evidence to support your assumptions and beliefs. You examine problems closely and are able to reject information that is incorrect or irrelevant. One of the essays you do in academic English is based on evaluating sources, evaluating, analyzing which is the better of 3 or 4 different options. And this ability to be able to say, this is 98% good, that's A. B, 71% good. C, 30%. D, 99%. But it has this tiny flaw. So we're not going to say it's 99, so that's good enough to be 100. No. We have to let that 1% be there and be critical and be a flaw. Because it means that we're being realistic and we're not saying, it's awesome and everything about it is awesome. One interesting aspect, if you're not so inclined to be a critical thinker, think about all those people who say, I like Samsung. Samsung make the best phones in the world. See all you Apple fanboys, your product's terrible. My product's superior because blah, blah, blah. Anytime you meet a fanboy, an Apple fanboy, a Samsung fanboy, an Elon Musk fanboy, just basically anybody who's obsessed with a single topic, they've stopped being critical. They don't want to hear any critical analysis of their thing. So you get the same thing with political parties. On some sides, Joe Biden can do no wrong. On the other side, Donald Trump can do no wrong. They've got to be able to say they're human beings. Everybody does wrong in some level. So this is technology. It will get better, and it will get better, and it will get better. Why will it get better? Because there's still things that are wrong with it now. There's still room for improvements. If we decide that everything is 100% good, that my football team, Manchester United, they can do no wrong. They're the best team in the world. Well, no, they're not. They need to improve. They need to improve. They need to get better. They need to evolve. People get older. People drop out. So everything is subject to evolution. Everything is subject to being made better. Everything is subject to innovation. Now, there's an interesting word for critical thinkers, because if you truly are an innovator, if you truly are a disruptor, and you come to an institution like Venus, and the slogan of Venus is spirit, and one of the letters is innovation. If you innovate in an institution, people push back. It's what they do, because people don't want to be disrupted. And yet here in Venus, we have adopted this policy of innovation is a good thing. So on one side, you've got the innovators who want to change things, and you've got an institution that doesn't want to be changed. So, innovation is a function, it's a byproduct of critical thought. All this technology, all this magic that's making this happen right now, is because critical thinkers have made it possible for cameras to hook up to computers, to hook up to the internet, to hook up to electricity, to get all of this across to you right now. So a very famous example of critical thinker is Sherlock Holmes, who doesn't just take things as straight facts. He examines, he uses abstract thinking. And this is the kind of the non-logical. We kind of got two brains in one. We've got a logical brain and we've got the non-logical, abstract, the part of our brain that appreciates art, that appreciates fashion, that appreciates why a pair of sneakers looks nice and another pair of sneakers doesn't. All of these things go on in a different part of our brain where we're applying some kind of a logic that's internal, and it's not born of mathematics or logic. Therefore, through experience as a critical thinker, you will identify information that's being put forth as an argument and break it down to its basic components for evaluation. If you're a critical thinker, you're likely to be a good debater, because debaters look for the details in the details and find out, does everything match up to a universal truth, or are there flaws in the argument? Construct alternative interpretations. So as I said earlier, the little boy stealing the apple, he's automatically a bad boy. Well, no, he's a mischievous boy, or he's a hungry boy, or he's any number of things, but a boy stealing an apple is not just a criminal, he's different interpretations. Be willing to explore diverse perspectives. Be willing to think of things as being universally possible. I am of one religion, therefore I should say all other religions are wrong. No, that's absolutely not what any religion should teach. Every religion teaches that love thy neighbor in some form or other. In every holy scripture, it says, be nice to other people. Yeah? So, but because you belong to one club, excluding yourself from all the other clubs doesn't make any sense. Basically, our function as critical thinkers and as university people should be, I want to be in as many clubs as possible, not because I want to be popular, because I want to know what they know. Because by the time you leave these 4 years, if you've picked up everything there is to know in this university, you're going to leave a very employable person. Yeah. Be willing to change personal assumptions when presented with valid information. Personal assumptions, everybody has them. And we all have stereotypes where we say, all people from Surabaya are this, all people from Medan are this. No, they're not. But we have to recognize that we say some things because they are shorthands for the truth, or they're shorthands for most people from Medan are. And that's where the stereotype comes from, that most becomes all. No, let's be critical and say stereotypes are lazy thinking. Be willing to ask difficult questions and the ability to be receptive to opposing viewpoints. If somebody disagrees with you, guess what? They may be right, and they may be helping you understand something that's really good for your future. So don't be grudging. Don't go, okay, then I'll learn. Sit there thinking to yourself, oh, I've just gained something today. I've just picked something up. I now own that piece of knowledge, and I've got smarter. Next time I have this conversation, I will take the smart route. Critical thinkers are curious. They're interested in knowing all there is to know about a topic. They look for new and better ways to do everything. They're not the person who will settle for, because that's the way we've always done it. And you'd be surprised how entrenched that sentiment has become in the world. Because that's the way we've always done it. And you'll hear this from lots and lots of employers. You'll hear it from lots and lots of different institutions. They don't understand the concept of innovation. If this is their fallback line, if this is all they have to go on, then they've given up. And an awful lot of institutions in Indonesia are plagued with this kind of thinking, particularly the government bureaucracy, because that's the way we've always done it. Now, in the last 5 years or so, people have tried to make systems more transparent. They've tried to put more systems online so that we can look at how processes work. And that's basically how innovation has started to kick in the Indonesian government. So saying that's the way it's always been, nothing is intractable. There's nothing that we can't take back, fix and make better, as long as you believe that critical thinking is worthwhile. So, you want to keep things the way they are? Well, just be prepared to sit in your own little swamp of I'm going nowhere. Definitions, critical thinking is, here's the biggest cliche, thinking outside the box. That's the one you hear all the time, and it's become so cliche that really critical thinking is not thinking outside the box, because thinking outside the box is now inside the box, which is weird. Divergent thinking, there's a better way of thinking it. Okay, so here's the route most people go, they're going in this direction, but you're prepared to go, no, I'm going over here to find out what this is, or I'm going over here to find out what's over here. You're prepared to diverge, to go off the path. Form logical inferences. You can probably work out that if I drop this remote control, it's gonna, that's right, it's gonna hit the floor, because you're aware of gravity and you're aware of how things work. So, if we can decide, if I drop this, it's gonna hit the floor, then what's probably gonna happen? Yes, the back will come off, the battery will come out, and I will probably have to pay Venus for this. So, there's inferences. What's going to happen? What are the likely outcomes of something that hasn't yet happened? We can kind of go, this, therefore that, and here's a possible endpoint. Limitless thinking. Once you go down the route of what happens when I drop this remote control, the remote control hits the floor, the back comes off, the battery comes out, I've wrecked the remote control, I get in trouble with IT. IT tell my boss says, that's the final straw, you're out of here, Mark, you're a terrible teacher and we hate you, go home. And so I have to go home and I go back to the UK, and I haven't been back to the UK for 15 years, and I don't know anybody, where have all my friends gone, and I die alone under a bridge. All because of remote control. So ideas are just one, they're the start of a chain of possibilities. Anything is a possibility. So once you start looking critically at the world, you kind of look at it with fresher eyes, fresher ears, fresher ideas come into your mind. Higher level thinking involving, din, din, din. This is something you'll see a lot of when you're in university. This is, boom, 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 boom. These are the phrases that are associated with Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is basically starting at the bottom. It's a hierarchy of how we think. So here, at the bottom, here's elementary school, junior high, high school. And up here is where we start. If we go to a vocational college, this is where we start to apply our knowledge. Then we've got analysis, synthesis, and finally evaluation, where we've got to the top of the tree and we're capable of saying why something is better or more useful or more destructive or more powerful than something else. So we can break these things down into two main sections of high school skills and university skills. And so if you remember learning lists, if you remember learning dates, and you remember classifying things into sections in high school, really, you've got so good at that now, because that's all really you do in high school. It's just learn to memorize things. Now we want you to take all the stuff you've memorized, we want you to learn some more, and we want you to start mixing it up and seeing, what does all that mean when you put it together? When you start to kind of, okay, let's imagine high school skills. What you did in high school was you went round with your microphone, your recorder, and you recorded different sounds. You recorded some drums, you recorded some singing, you recorded some bass guitar, you recorded some electronic noises, you recorded some firework noises. Okay, so you memorized all these things, you've got them in your memory. Now, university is where you take all of these samples and you put them together and you start making new tracks. Yeah? So basically, getting your knowledge, putting it all in one place, and now we're kind of saying, in what order do these things go to make the most sense? And that's really what university thinking is like. It's utilizing the building blocks that you've got to build something so much bigger. So if you play samples one by one by one by one, they don't sound great, but layer them over each other, or play them both at the same time, or speed them up, slow them down, and we've got a tune. We've got music that we want to listen to. And so this is what you're doing here. There's a good reason why this is called synthesis, is because you're making something new out of old things. Yeah, like a synthesizer. Understanding Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy is hierarchy, and as you know, a hierarchy is a sequential organization, starting at the bottom. So at the bottom of an organization, you might be a part-time employee, or you might be a cleaner or a secretary. And then as you move up, you become, right at the top, you get the CEO. And then you get shades in between: managers, middle managers, administrators, assistants. So every hierarchy has its levels. The progress is upward from simple to complex. Each level builds on the preceding levels. This is not to say we don't leave high school thinking behind after high school. We take it with us and we say, okay, that's my foundation upon which I'm going to build the rest of my knowledge. So perhaps your high school thinking wasn't terribly amazing. Maybe you got through high school just by going, la 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 la. If that's the case, you really need to give yourself a wake-up call, because university will be alarming. An appropriate concept map of Bloom's taxonomy is triangular, as you saw before, beginning at the base with knowledge and progressing upward. At the highest level, there is no one right answer, which is why evaluation is such an important skill. If you recognize that one answer is 98% good and the other answer is 98% good, well, what's the difference in the 2%? That's when you start getting into evaluations. So here's different examples of the kinds of questions that you're getting asked at higher levels. If you're asked, what is the Latin name for dog? And you say canine, what's the Latin name for cat, feline? These are all just facts. But what's your opinion on Donald Trump's foreign policy? Now we've got something where there is no one right answer, but there's an educated version of an answer in there. Or there's several educated versions. Okay, I want you to take a pen and a piece of paper, please. At home, grab a pen and a piece of paper, and I want you to draw the following 9 dots on your piece of paper, spaced equally, and it should form kind of like 4 boxes here. And as you see in the instructions, connect the 9 dots using 4 straight lines. So a straight line is like me, like me, like me, like me. Oh, I left this one out. Yeah. So can you connect all 4 with, sorry, can you connect all 9 dots with 4 straight lines? You will get 90 seconds to do this. If you don't get it right the first time, give it another try. Just quickly draw 9 dots. 90 seconds. Okay, I wonder if anybody apart from the freshman leaders got this right. An interesting experiment would be to ask a freshman leader, do you remember this exercise from last year? Any of the freshman leaders tell me, do you remember this? Freshman leaders. Are any freshman leaders there? Okay, I've got to assume they're asleep or they're at lunch. Okay, for everybody else, here is the answer. Here are your 9 dots. But remember, the definition of critical thinking was thinking outside the box. So we took our line all the way up here, then back down here, then across here, then up here. And what this is guaranteed to do is annoy every single person that you try it on, because once you know the answer, it looks so logical. But until you see the answer, there's impossibility, there's confusion. Now that you see this, you're like, oh, of course, I could do that, right. Why is critical thinking important? Basically because it's all about being smart. You can't be smart without critical thinking. It plays an important part in social change. Every single gadget that you own is because smart people made critical choices. If you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be anything that's regarded as being a smart profession, then you got to critical think. A long time ago, we thought that, well, we thought all kinds of crazy things. We threw sheep into volcanoes to appease the gods. And we've moved on to the point now where we've got people on the moon, we've got vehicles going to Mars, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. The magic of, like I say, the internet and teleconferencing. All of this is because critical thinkers have done us some great favors. Like we will become a critical thinker, asking lots of questions, assessing the veracity or the truth of what you're hearing and reading, developing a sense of observation and curiosity. And as I said earlier, it is tiring until you get used to using that part of your brain as a muscle. And like I say, going to the gym, working out, you start to build up your muscles. It's the same thing with your brain. Curiosity becomes fun because you discover new stuff and you can constantly go, ooh, shiny thing. By becoming interested in finding new solutions. Imagine being the guy or the girl who comes up with the solution to the problem that everyone has been wanting. Great feeling, right? By examining beliefs, assumptions, and opinions and weighing them against truth. Some very superstitious people in this country, and your superstitions are different from, say, somebody on a different island of Indonesia. But this country is very superstitious. And it's cute in a lot of ways, but superstitions aren't true by their very nature. By developing a thinker's vocabulary, how do you think what you think? By listening carefully to others, thinking about what they say, and giving feedback. This doesn't have to be instant feedback. This could be a couple of days, weeks, months. It could be, remember you said to me last year that blah. And I'll say, I'll take your word for it because I've got a terrible memory. And then you can give me the feedback and tell me what has changed, what you've realized, what you've analyzed from what I gave you. By observing with an open mind. This means don't decide before you go into any situation what's going to happen. You can predict it, but be happy to be wrong. Be happy when you see a twist in a movie or in a book that sent you the wrong way. Because while it's good to feel smart, it's great to feel that there's other options than the one that we predicted. By making assertions based on sound logic and solid evidence, by sharing ideas, by becoming open-minded, by engaging in active reading and active listening. So here's the critical student matrix, and this is the important part where you want to know, how can I take this into class? What can I do in class that will make me a better learner? Well, I've developed this critical matrix because there's such a thing as taking critical thinking too far. And I suspect you already knew that and were thinking that in the back of your mind, you were like, what if I become too critical and I criticize everything? Well, here's where we want you to be. We want you to be in the middle of the Maloney matrix, the critical student matrix. Because over here, we've got entirely silent in class. Doesn't say anything. Completely mute. Don't know who you are. Over here, whoopsie, we've got painful to teach. Down here, we've got dumb questions. Next, we've got intellectual questions. And we want you to be somewhere in the middle. You're in your first year in university. We want you to be, well, you're not a genius yet. Let's keep you down here. Because if you're in this zone, in the green zone, you can be in two different quadrants. You can be the helpful student to have in class, or you can be that guy. Now, I think everybody knows who that guy is. You've been in the class with somebody who's like, sir, 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 and you want to kill them, yeah? So let's imagine other students need a chance to ask questions too. So let's be you. Let's be the helpful student to have in class. Wrapping up, critical thinking is higher level thinking. It often requires us to think outside the box. Many occupations or careers require critical thinking, and you won't get into the job unless you've got this skill. The things we enjoy in everyday society are the result of critical thinking, our phones, our gadgets, our technology. By adopting certain habits and behaviors, we can learn to think critically. Who should use critical thinking? Everybody. Everybody thinks. It's in our nature to do so, but so much of our thinking left to itself is biased, distorted, partial, uninformed, or downright prejudiced. Yet the quality of our life and that of what we produce depends on the quality of our thought. You guys, 2024, Indonesia needs critical thinkers. That's you. Here are my resources. Thank you very much. Have a nice lunch, everybody. Any questions, please drop into the chat. Bye.